Hello, Namaste. My name is Dr. Ranganadham, Senior Neurosurgeon, Ashtaprem Hospital, Amirpet, Hyderabad. Today we are going to speak on a very important subject which is been in the news, social media, everywhere for the last 2 months plus. And this is about two people by name Sunita Williams and Wilmore. The reason is these two are astronauts from NASA, and they went to the space on the 6th of June. Though the NASA has been the sponsor, the company through which they represented was Starliner, which is a company owned by Boeing. Boeing, all of you know. Boeing, like Airbus, Lockheed, they're one of the world famous maker of aeroplanes. But in the space, these people are newcomers. So they requested these two people, Sunita Williams, who has gone to the space 4 times earlier, and the Wilmore, and he has gone to the space 3 times. So very senior astronauts. And these two people were requested because the duration of the trip was thought to be 8 days. So 6th of June they went to the space, and 14th of June they are supposed to come back. The issue didn't go that simply. That's the reason the news is all over the world. When they were reaching the ISS stands for International Space Station. This was created in the year 1998. And this is where the docking of the way spacecrafts will be done once they reach the space. Before reaching this ISS, there were problems they faced. One is there is what is called helium gas leak from the spacecraft. In addition to that, there are failure of thrusters. Thrusters are the equipment which are useful to open up once they reach the space. Of the 35, 8 were malfunctioning. Luckily, these two are very senior engineers, capable people, and they managed it. And here you have to understand one important point. When the astronauts go to the space, they are one-man army. You can ask me, what is this one-man army? They are engineers, they are astronauts, they are doctors, they are repair people, everything. Because there is nobody to help them out. Yes, from the Houston, the NASA headquarters, they will get the instructions, all right. But who will repair the thing, or who will do personally? It's the astronaut. So it's a very tough job. So Sunita Williams, they were stuck in the space. And what thought to be 8 days, it was 2 months, 8 weeks. Then it is becoming 8 months, I'm telling you, going to tell you that. Now the last month, 24, that is the August 24th, the NASA is National Aeronautics Space Administration. That's the main agency which looks after the affairs of astronauts representing mainly America. Of course, there are other countries also are going to the space. Say, for example, Russia. They have the Russian Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency, the Japanese, and the Indians are also looking for, by 2030, the Indians are going to set foot in the space. That's what the ISRO's information is. Now the NASA, because they are the caretakers of all the people who are in the space, who travel to the space, they had repeated meetings with the Starliner, that is the Boeing company, and also the SpaceX. You can ask me, what is SpaceX? SpaceX is the space company owned by an eccentric #1 richest man in the world by name Elon Musk. The same man who owns that X social media company, of course I said, say SpaceX, and then of course one of the largest producers of the electric vehicles in the world. He's a very brainy fellow. The reason why SpaceX is involved, I'll tell you. Now NASA, after reviewing all the difficulties what Sunita Williams and Wilmore faced, they were not keen at all to allow the Starliner to come back from the space to the Earth. Of course, incidentally, this month 6th, the Starliner without Sunita Williams and Wilmore, they have landed in New Mexico, what's called the White Sand Beach. They were expecting some problems. Touch wood and lucky, the Starliner has landed in the proposed area without any problem, any hitch. Now the subsequent things what the NASA and the Starliner, Boeing, they will decide what are all the things we are not the right people to discuss at this forum. And during the 24th and before subsequent meetings, the NASA has put their foot down. Though the Boeing and Starliner have been insisting, no, our spacecraft will come back safely, we are guaranteeing you. But the experience of people like Kalpana Chawla, who went to the space, stayed there for some time, and while coming back, and that was a tragedy. Just before reaching the Earth, they died. So the NASA said, we don't want to lose again more astronauts again. The Starliner was not liking it, because that is a question of reputation of their ability. But they have to agree because NASA has very pakka. Now the Starliner, how they are coming into? All the while it was a monopoly of the government of USA. Now recently, last say couple of years, private companies have joined the race. One is SpaceX of Elon Musk, Blue Origin of Amazon, Starliner of Boeing, Virgin Galactic. Now you can ask me, what is so interesting, what is so keen, why so many companies are competing? There is a word called space tourism. You can ask me, what is space tourism? Like the health tourism. In Hyderabad city, we get patients from various countries, from the Middle East, from the African nations, and so on. Because whatever the reasons, the quality of the Medicare is better, the cost is a little less. Even a couple of patients who are originally from India, but were in America, for some reason, some surgeries, they come to Hyderabad. The same way, space tourism. There are people who are keen to go as a tourist, not as a professional astronaut, to space and see, to get a feel what is happening in the space. And they are willing to take the risk, mind you. And recently, representing the Blue Origin, there are 4 people who went to the space. Not exactly the space. They went up to the Karman line. You can ask me, what is this Karman line? Karman line is the boundary, official boundary between the Earth outer space, outer part, and the space. It's only 100 miles from the Earth. So there they will experience what is called the zero gravity or microgravity effect. We will talk about microgravity afterwards. And one of the people who was an Indian origin person by name Gopichand Totakura has travelled in that Blue Origin spacecraft, and they came back successfully. And believe it, the whole journey is only for 10 minutes. You will be very interested to know and surprised to know. You know how much is paid? $750,000. That's a big money. And they are willing to share that money. You can calculate in Indian currency if you want. So that is the concept of space tourism, and so much of money, so much of ability, so much of reputation at stake. That's the reason Starliner was not willing to forego the reputation, but NASA said no. That's one part of the story. Now what we're going to talk more about is, now Sunita Williams and Wilmore are supposed to come back in 8 days. Now, The journey from NASA to Hyderabad, this one to space and space to NASA back, is not that it's an everyday affair like bus service between Vijayawada and Hyderabad. There is spacecraft earmarked for that, and then when the spacecraft goes there and all, after a particular time only, it will come back to the Earth. And there is no spacecraft directly from the NASA in the meantime. So they requested the SpaceX, that is the company owned by Elon Musk, as a savior. SpaceX spacecraft is going to leave the NASA headquarters on the 24th of September and going to return back in the February 2025. That means 8 months for both Sunita Williams and Wilmore. Now the worry has been, for 8 months, one, they are not mentally prepared, and in the space for 8 months staying, will it not cause any health problems? As I said, Sunita Williams had spent already 371 days in space, in 4 occasions differently. Wilmore was there for 175 days. Even then, there are a couple of problems. Now you start from the foot to the brain, every part of the body, there is likely that there may be problem. I use the word likely because already while she was in that 8 weeks period itself, Sunita Williams, she is 58 and she is a lady. And with due respect to the ladies, lady at 58, the hormonal changes, the other changes are not, but normal. She was already complaining of backache. She is complaining of some problem in the vision. And of course, they have been handled and all from the headquarters, NASA. Like that, there are problems in the every part of the body, ladies and gentlemen. Now, there are 2 important issues here we have to discuss, specially specified for space travel. One is microgravity, the other is space radiation. Microgravity. Now, the man stands on his feet because of the gravity, all of us know. That's the great Isaac Newton's principle. Now, when you throw a coin from here, it will come back to the earth. Because of the gravity, it can't go up. Now, imagine a situation in space where there is almost no gravity or negligible gravity. What will happen? You must have seen all the photos. The astronauts, they float. Here I may differentiate. The people who are representing Russia are known as cosmonauts. People are going through the NASA are known as astronauts. This is a nomenclature, but both purposes are same. They float. You will be seeing it. They won't stand. They can't stand. Now, in such a situation, the whole blood from the legs is pumped up where? To the brain, to the eyes, because they are the highest part of the individual. Now, will they keep quiet? No, they create problems. In the brain, problems like headache, blurring of the vision, confusion, and then, of course, the things like the ability to concentrate, change in the circadian rhythm, that's the day and night variation because they are totally different. And people who travel from United States or UK, they complain of what is called jet lag because of the long travel of journey. Now imagine where you go to the space, much longer distance area, and don't they have problems? And also the recognition of the people, calculation, memory, all these problems are a casualty in the brain. In the eyes, they develop what is called features like glaucoma or the decrease in the vision. And there is a problem called the globe. Eye globe in the posterior part becomes flattened. And these are the complications described here. And if you come up to the muscles get atrophied. There is no work there. There is no work. The blood is not there. The muscles get atrophied. The bones becomes very soft and very prone to injury. In case they are injured, they develop fractures. Because the calcium, which is an important constant of the bone, is totally demineralized. It floats in the blood. And in the bargain, people develop kidney stones, stones in the gallbladder, abdominal pain. If you come up a little bit up, it is said the blood and the fluids from the blood vessels of the legs, about 20% they are totally emptied. And that is the effect of the gravity, ladies and gentlemen. And few words about the space radiation. In the space, there are two types of radiation. Now, when we use a mobile phone, you are worried, all of us worried, oh, there is radiation, ionizing radiation. Now, that is the minimal. Now, imagine the space. From the sun, there is a special radiation called space particle radiation, solar particle event radiation, which is very dangerous. And the second part is, other than the sun, from the other galaxy, there is another radiation called galactic gamma radiation. And they are very, very, very cosmic radiation. They are very dangerous. And for example, the radiation produces terrible damage to the blood. Normally, in the blood, we have RBC. Now, the RBC, normally they get degenerated. That is around 2 millions per minute. And in the space, they destroy to the extent of 3 millions. Now, you can imagine, suppose somebody stays for about 6 months in the space, 54% of the blood is replaced. And they develop what is called space anemia. What is space anemia? The blood count of the individual becomes reduced. And also, another important thing is the DNA, which is the important part of the body, that tells us what sort of going to be individual. Somebody is a fair man, somebody is a short or a tall. All the characteristics are denoted by this important part called DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. That is torn into shreds because of the radiation. And they float as free small pieces in the blood. And this study was done in people who went to the space. 10 days before going to the space, first day of returning back, and 3 days after that. And they thought that 3 to 325 times this change is seen. And sometimes it is very dangerous. They can produce some genetic abnormalities. And there is a condition called atrial flutter, that the heart beats repeatedly without stop so many times. And that is a dangerous thing for the heart problem. And in the heart also, there is what is called heart fibrosis. Heart can increase in the size. And of course, the whole blood in the heart becomes squeezed out, so there is no work for the heart. The muscles contractility becomes reduced. This is in the heart. In the lungs, the diffusion oxygenation percentage, perfusion significantly drops because the oxygen in the level is very low. And of course, the immune system, we were talking about the immune system during the COVID. That is a policeman of the body. What is policeman of the body? Because they protect us against any of the events. Now, the effect of the space travel on the immune system is again very marked. Because of that, what is called the stress hormone levels increases. And also what we talked about during the COVID, the cytokines, which are very destructive to the body and the tissues, they are also increasing in size. They are prone for unwanted infections like varicella zoster, Epstein-Barr virus. So they are prone for all problems. Gastrointestinal system, there is what is called space diarrhea or the cancers of the gastrointestinal system. In the skin, various types of problems. Dermatitis, psoriasis, basal cell carcinoma, one cancer, or squamous cell carcinoma. So like that, every part of the body, I repeat, starting from the blood to the bone, to the muscles, heart, lungs, kidney, as I said, kidneys can develop stones. In the abdomen again, the gallbladder stones, there is what is called a jaundice. People will have problems like appendicitis and all this. So the worry about these two astronauts who are destined for 8 days, staying for 8 months now. February means it's going to be 8 months. The whole world is worried. But now the NASA has arranged it in such a way, the SpaceX which is traveling from the Earth on the 24th of this month They are supposed to travel 4 astronauts. But the NASA requested SpaceX, with a kind heart, Elon Musk was good enough to keep only 2 astronauts from here in place of 4. Because they have to create space too for the 2 people that is from space to come back. That is Sunita Williams and Wilmore. And they have to get food, they have to get their clothes, their space suits. Mind you, here one small point. The space suits for each spacecraft is different. The Blue Origin spacecraft is different, the Starliner is different, and the SpaceX is different. So they make it in that way. It's all private version, isn't it? So all this cargo, they are traveling to space, and they are only destined to come back on the February 25th. We all pray and hope that during this period, nothing unwarranted should happen to these brave souls. If you see their talk from them, both of them, they're in the high spirits, they are not crying, they're not losing heart. Even their family members are saying, no, they are brave hearts, they are fighters, they will come back. We have absolutely full confidence. We also hope the same. A few more aspects. Sometime back, Sunita Williams, after the first time, 2012, that was 12 years back, she went to space last time. And that is the maximum time she stayed there at one go, so 175 days. And she visited India. And she was talking to the kids who are interested in the space, because that's fascination. From the world go, for the human being, it's a fascination to see or travel to space. Imagining about the space itself is the great thing. Now imagine when somebody travels to space, and that's now possible. And she said there are certain physiological things. Normally there are certain things happen in space. And that is, for example, your nails become long, your hair grows very fast. And once they come back to the earth, of course, they'll settle down. And the forehead creases, they filled up, and the people will appear very young compared to what you are on the earth. And the length, the height of the individuals increases. Of course, once they come back, as I said, the height will become normal. So there are certain physiological changes also. And physiological changes vis-a-vis the complications we have to gaze. So as I said, this is not the first time. You can ask me, were there any people who were there longer time in the space? Yes. One gentleman called Payeko from Russia, he stayed totally at one go 475 days, 18 hours. Totally he was there in the space 678 days. That's the world record. The first man who set his foot in the space was Yuri Gagarin, again from Russia. And another interesting is that a person who was held up in the space because of various reasons was a gentleman by name Krikalev. And he traveled in the year 1991. And when the problem was that when he came back, the Russia, which was there at that time, United Soviet Russia, that was broken. And when he came back, the Russia is broken into various pieces, fragments, and ultimately he was a Russian citizen. He came back to the earth after 311 days, extended stay, as a Russian citizen. Now, you can ask me, how are these 2 people? Of course, Krikalev is still very much doing very well. I believe he is a very important person, aid and help, advisor to Putin. And the person who has stayed the longest time in the space, Polikov, he just died in 2022 at the ripe age of 80. So it's not that all is bad and anything, because one last point you have to remember all of. It's not just somebody who is interested to travel to the space, they just like go. There's a lot of tests, exercises, selection criteria before somebody is selected. I was told recently there was an advertisement from the NASA for 10 astronauts. You know how many people have applied for that? 18,000. That is the interest people have. There is the interest people are willing to take the risk. People like mountaineers, people go into the deep sea, These are all brave hearts. We all appreciate them. So there is so much of interest in the space travel. And as I said, the private companies are also helping hand. The information is that NASA wants to close the ISS, as I said, International Space Station, by 2030, because the maintenance and all is very costly affair. And they want to hand over to some private company. So most likely SpaceX will take over that. And SpaceX, in the last 4 years, some 15 trips and around 50 astronauts are already sent from the Earth successfully. So we have to see the competition is very much there. The race is on. Who will win and all we have to see. And at this point of time, all of us hope and pray and wish that Sunita Williams and Wilmore will return back to the Earth safely. Thank you.